Welcome to Building a Powerhouse Brand. I'm Jackie Laws, brand strategist, mentor, designer, author and founder of brand agency Bailey & Rue. My mission for this podcast is to support other women to build a magnetic personal brand and a business that allows you to have both financial and time freedom. Building your personal brand is not just about those visuals, it's about setting the stage as the real you and a magnet for those dream clients. Join me and my incredible guests as I dive into the strategies, insights and stories behind building a successful brand. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a marketer or simply intrigued by brand building, this podcast is your roadmap to success. Tune in each week as I explore branding, innovation and influence, and join me on this adventure as we unleash the power of personal branding. Visit baileyandrue.com for more insights and follow me on Instagram at baileyandrue. This is Becoming a Powerhouse Brand.
No.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. I am really excited today. I've got the lovely Emmeline on, who is going to be talking all about personal styling. And as I've been mentioning multiple times about the importance of really finding your own personal style, this is just one part of the process of building your personal brand. So I'm really excited to talk to Emmeline today. So just to give you a bit of a background, Emmeline is a personal stylist, business strategist, mentor and teacher to personal stylists. She has an established training agency and nationwide stylist community. Along with 18 years in personal styling industry, Emmeline has seen the industry change from a traditional model to a contemporary, more human way of working with women and their clothes. In this episode, Emmeline and I are going to share with you the truth behind personal styling and how it boosts performance, confidence, and leaves women more empowered than ever before. So Emmeline, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to just do a bit more? I know I've obviously just done your bio there and all your details are in the comments below, but if you want to just give us a bit of an intro into who you are, who you work with, and yeah, a bit about your journey.
Amazing. Thank you. Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, because I've got so much to talk about when it comes to personal styling. I'll talk to you about, how I got into styling really. My very early kind of career was in visual merchandising. So I knew how to put clothes together, how things should look on a mannequin, on something that doesn't move, in a window. And then I kind of moved into business and brand development and learned so much about the fashion industry. So my background was kind of in and around fashion, but what I didn't like about fashion was how fast paced it was, how fickle it was, the kind of nature of it. My passion was in people. And so this kind of this industry that was very small, personal styling or image consulting, it was probably more so referred to in 2006, which was when I launched my business. It was quite small, really, outside of places like London, for example. And at that particular point, I had children. My first child, I lost a lot of body confidence. I always thought I understood myself. I thought I knew my style, and then I had a child, and then I lost all my confidence. My body shape changed, everything, and I really felt absolutely passionately that I knew that there would be other people that would be feeling the way that I did. And so I kind of found this kind of niche area really of, and this was, 2006, we weren't really talking about personal development. We weren't talking about the way we look, it was in a very different way. We were still seeing stick thin models on the front of Vogue, that kind of thing. It was a bit of a different world. And so I really wanted to move away from that and work with real women on the high street. Those are the key words. Working with women who were like me, working with women who had reached points in their lives, whether it was, at the same point I was or in the later stages, where women just didn't really know what to do and how to do it, what to do with the body, how to dress the body, how to present themselves, whether that was in the workplace and a change of career, whether that was because they just had a family. I recognized the theme in lots of kind of different areas. And so that was really what pushed me into understanding a bit more about the personal styling industry and wanting to kind of reach those people, because they didn't have access. We didn't have access to that kind of thing in those days. It was just as Trinity and Susanna had kind of moved away from, you know, and what we understood, if you're old enough to remember Trinity and Susanna,
Yeah.
but, you know, we understood as, you know, who they were on the TV. And she's a very different personality now. But, you know, it was quite aggressive the way that they kind of came across. And Got Kwan had kind of gently kind of come onto our screens with a how to look good naked kind of thing, and then it sort of moved into more like high street designer look to high street kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then it was people understood the personal styling industry a little bit more. And I think, you know, what one of my missions really now is to help people understand personal styling, because I think, you know, when I like I said, when I first came into the industry, people thought that it was expensive, even though they didn't know how much it cost. People thought, you know, we're investing in yourself, like your
Yeah.
life. Like
It's a luxury. Like that's what people thought, wasn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And I think more people now see it as a necessity,
Yeah.
you know, something essential to help them understand themselves. Many people thought it was for celebrities, and you know, I had no interest and still have no interest in working with celebrities, with all due respect. And you know, it wasn't fashion styling. Again, you know, a lot of people thought that you were going to come to their wardrobes, throw everything out, make them spend lots of money, make them wear trends, make them wear things that they didn't want, make
Yeah.
them wear things that didn't suit them. And you know, that's so far from what the personal styling industry is all about, and it's really about helping people understand who they are and how they want to present themselves in whatever walk of life.
Yeah.
You know, many people have come across have said to me, well, what does it matter what I wear? And I say it doesn't, but how do you feel? That's
Yeah.
the most important thing. If you don't feel good, if you're stressing about what you're wearing, that's not a good thing. If you're looking at your wardrobe every day and you don't really know what to do, how to do it, why you're doing it, and you don't put those clothes on and feel brilliant,
Yeah.
then there's maybe something that we need to, you know, adjust there. But we're never trying to make people, you know, that, and I talk on behalf of the personal styling industry. No personal stylist ever wants to go into anyone's wardrobe and make them feel the way that they probably think a personal stylist is going to make them feel. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, just intimidated, judged. You know, no, that's not, you know, the first thing that we do is get to know the client, to
Yeah.
understand what they want to achieve, who they are, what their preferences are. So there's a lot of work in the mindset as well.
Yeah, I think
That
it's
was
so
another.
interesting. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think it's the same if you think of the fitness industry. Like a personal trainer was seen as a luxury not that long ago, really. And actually, a lot of people now have personal trainers. Yeah, personal trainers, couldn't think of the word
Yeah.
then. And I think it's the same thing in the style industry. Like the reason you have a fitness trainer to help you is to create fitness plans that work for you and make you feel good and are going to give you the results that you want to have. And it's just a guide, isn't it? And it's the same with working with a personal stylist. It's not somebody judging you or telling you, right, you need to get rid of that and you need to wear this because that's going to create that kind of vibe or make you look better. It is about how you're going to feel and that result that you want to have. Like we all want to feel good in what we're wearing because it makes a huge difference, particularly as business owners, where you've got to show up all the time and show who you are and become magnetic for those dream clients. Like you can't do that unless you feel really good in yourself because it's just going to come across in your energy.
Yeah, and you know that yeah, kind of touching on that as well. The way that what am I trying to say? Yeah, trying to kind of like understand. I think the thing as well is when you come to your client, first of all, sometimes they don't know. They don't like a lot of the time they don't really know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's your job as a stylist to kind of ask the right questions also. Have a good conversation with them to really sort of figure it out together. It's a bit of a joint effort. It's somebody said to me the other day, you know, like, and I've always said this, but I don't say it, you know, widely because a lot of people think that they don't want to be a therapist when they come into personal styling, but you do end up being a little bit of a
Yeah.
coach, bit of a therapist, you know, like you're there to, because, you know, I work with a lot of women, and I do love working with women for many reasons. because I'm a woman, I'm proud to be a woman. But also we work in wires in our brains. We work with emotion. We work in a very different way to men. Men are very simple, but I like a challenge, which is
Yeah.
why I'm working with women. And so the way that we approach our clothes, and the way that we choose clothes, the way that we hang on to clothes, the way that we wear our clothes, a lot of that is led by our emotions. And rightly or wrongly, sometimes those wires just get a little bit muddled up, and we kind of like think one thing, end up with another, influenced by one thing, end up with something that doesn't really work for us. So it's really about helping that person untangle those wires.
Yeah.
And how many people do we talk to? Well, number one, how many people do we invite into our wardrobes? It's a very personal space,
Yeah, it is.
and that's the thing that, as personal stylists, we've got to try and get across to our audiences as well, is to help them understand that we are not scary people that are going to rip everything out of the wardrobe and make you throw things away, and that we are there to help and to understand and to really kind of put two and two together. Because in our own wardrobes, what we tend to do is muddle it all up and then get really confused and then really not too sure what to do. At that point, if you feel that way, then generally you do need a stylist to kind of help you. But how many people do you actually talk to about your wardrobe? You might ask a friend, oh, what do you think of this dress? Got a wedding to go to or something. But quite often we're not decluttering the whole wardrobe. We're not going through our whole wardrobe with our friends or family members. Most of us have got
Absolutely.
things to do with our time.
Yeah,
Do that.
exactly.
So styling is really working for me. Many stylists work in different ways, but for me, I want to get into that wardrobe. That was one of the things that I recognized in the early days of my career. Was it wasn't really about presenting my client with a list of all of these different services that I could offer, because I treat every individual as an individual. So everything really needs to be tailored specifically to that individual. And one of the things that I recognized was that there's a lot of stuff that I can't do unless we're in the wardrobe. Unless getting to the wardrobe is like getting into the mind, like there are lots of answers in the wardrobe. The way that she connects with a wardrobe, the way that she talks about herself with these clothes that she's got in the wardrobe, the way the emotions that you can kind of see. I never expected early in my career to be sitting with women on the bed in tears, and that's been the most fascinating thing. But also I feel privileged to have been able to share that space with so many women. And that's not an intentional thing. I was on a BBC radio interview not too long ago, and the John, the DJ, said, do we still call them DJs? We don't, do we?
I think it is a DJ, isn't it? Host.
I think it was a really, really old-fashioned disc jockey. A hope presenter, maybe. He said,
let's get.
I felt really old then. He said, you make people cry for a living. And I was like, well, I'm not sure that I would put it that way, but that can happen.
Because it's like a release though, isn't it? Because you've kind of got to. I know when I went through it myself. So for me, I'd never ever thought of having a personal stylist. It was a celebrity thing. Only celebrities have personal stylists. But then when I think it was after my second child, after my first, totally lost all my body confidence, because obviously you don't realise, but when you've never had a child before, you have no idea how it's going to transform you afterwards, both mentally and physically. And I lost all of my confidence. And actually, I never worked with a personal stylist before, but I invested in it after my second child. And it was literally a shopping trip. We had like a consultation call beforehand, like did mood boards, all that kind of thing. And then we had a shopping trip. And actually, like that experience has still stuck with me now. And I use what I learned from that when I'm buying clothes now. And the impact that that's actually had on me mentally and physically has just been so huge. And I think for a lot of women, when you have gone through that transition of like pre and postnatal, it's a lot to take on. And it is almost like shedding the old you, isn't it? And stepping into this new person. And there's that in between stage of, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know who I am. I'm not the person I was before. I don't know who I'm becoming. Everything is revolved around my child. And it's then taking that priority on you and making you feel really good and actually like allowing somebody to come in and help you do that.
I think, yeah, you're right. It takes a big step of confidence to raise that awareness and, just go, hang on a minute, I think I need some help.
Yeah,
And getting through that small emotional barrier, because it is for many people. And then that next step of, well, who do I trust? Who do I fight? Who do I look for? And talking to a few people, either talking to people about what you want to do, or talking to personal stylists, and just doing a little bit of homework and see who you connect with. Because I think that connection is really important, that you find somebody that you can connect with, that you trust, that will go on this journey with you, is the right person to go on the journey with you. So that's a really big step of confidence, to kind of raise that awareness and put yourself out there and say, like, I need some help, like, because this is such a personal thing. Many of
yeah,
us don't want to say, I'm a bit stuck, I need help. And so that's the first step. And the other thing I was just thinking when you were talking then, was that everybody, you recognize that as an individual, and you knew, I think it sounded like you knew sort of what you wanted to do with your stylist.
yeah,
And I think, that's a great level of confidence to have. Many people aren't there with that level of confidence. So I quite often, when I'm teaching styling and stuff, I quite often talk about the scale of 1 to 10. You might meet somebody who's at a 2, lower end of the scale, and you're thinking, oh, they want to get up to like an 8 or 9 or something like that, maybe a 10. But actually, with their levels of confidence, where they are in their life, their mindset, whatever, they might actually only be willing to move to a 2 or a 3. So
yeah,
with some people, you're working on a longer journey, and we're working consistently together, where we're moving them slowly up the scale. Not everybody wants to accelerate overnight from
yeah,
to a 9, 10, whatever. That those are really big steps for some people to take. But some people come to you, like I think you were, and you were ready. You were like, I am ready for
yeah,
this. I want to make some changes. I want to feel good. And that's great. But not everybody, I want to assure your listeners as well, that not everybody is there. Not
yeah,
everybody feels that way. Not everybody has that level of confidence, even just to kind of step forward, let alone have that conversation, let alone do the work and move, from that scale of 2, to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, for me, that it's really important to understand where, and you can, and just by having a conversation with an individual, I'll learn that from that very first conversation that we have. Not without, I'm not asking intrusive questions or anything like that. It's just understanding that person, having that conversation, and really kind of understanding what it is
yeah,
that they want to get from this whole thing, what their sort of long-term objective is. Not everybody knows, and that's
yeah,
the thing. I think in personal styling, we've got to remember, the clothes are the tools that we're using. They're not, that they don't lead at all. It's the connection that you're making with the individual that's the most important thing, because you really are helping that person see themselves differently, helping
yeah,
that person. Yes, we're using the clothes to do that, those tools to do that, but we're helping that person move, whether it's slowly or whether it's accelerating, like to where they want to be, because they're ready.
yeah,
So it's really important that we kind of do that work with them as
definitely.
well.
I think it's really interesting as well. So, how do you sort of approach people? Like, how do people find out that they need a personal stylist? Like, what is that first step? If they are at the point where they're feeling they don't have the confidence in what they're wearing, they've got a whole wardrobe filled with clothes, but can never find anything to wear, and all they're doing is repeatedly buying new clothes, like separate pieces that don't really go together as an outfit. So, you think over the course of a year, how much money that person is spending on clothing that's just not the right fit, but they perhaps are at a point where they don't even know about a personal stylist. Like, what is that kind of moment where somebody like that sort of comes across a personal stylist? Like, how would they actually go about reaching out to somebody?
Yeah, I guess, I guess, just in a couple of steps, starting from the beginning, is first of all, that raising the awareness, recognizing that they don't feel there's something not quite right. I don't feel good about my wardrobe. I don't feel good about the way I'm presenting myself. I don't feel good about the way my clothes fit,
Yeah,
because that's the thing as well. what we are creatures of habit, so we do get into habits of buying from the same places. We can be influenced by other people. We purchase things based on our own what we are exposed to. Right from the beginning, and from a slight psychological perspective, we dress the way that we know, so things that we've learned, and a lot of the time what we've kind of learned in childhood has that impact, as many of us know, on our adult life. And so your choices through your clothes have an impact on that as well. It could be, this is quite interesting actually, in color analysis. A lot of the time when we're working to help an individual find their best colors, we come into this world not like loving everything, liking everything. We don't dislike color when we're born. We grow to dislike color based on different experiences that we have. And so when we're working with colors and color analysis, and we're helping that person understand what colors really work for them, and when we do that, we're looking at different characteristics physically, but you've got to understand where the person is from an emotional and mental perspective, and how they respond to color, and how they connect with color. And it's amazing how many people, like school uniforms, school uniform color comes up quite often. So like for me, mine was like a burgundy maroon, I think they called it in those days. And I didn't like that colour for a really long time. It was my secondary school colour. Didn't like that colour for a really long time. Come across lots of people who don't like navy, because navy is quite a common secondary school colour to have. So it's funny how you come across people who dislike things because of early childhood or memories, just from the past. So yeah, when we kind of like, when we recognize that there's something that's not quite right, and there's something that's not quite working out for us, then yeah, I guess personal styling is something that is still not really, really well known. People still don't think it's an accessible thing to them. And we've got a lot of the stores, John Lewis is probably a typical one, if I'm allowed to name brands. Then John Lewis a typical one, where they offer free styling services, and that's great. That can be limiting in the respect, with all due respect to, John Lewis do a great job, in their styling teams, but you've only got the brands in John Lewis that they can physically work with. And obviously there's a plethora of different kind of brands and items and things like that are accessible to you at your fingertips, wherever you are in the world. So places on the high street have made personal styling services, with their marketing, much more well known and easily accessible and free, which is great. But I guess, unless you unless you've come across the words personal stylist, image consultant, and people sort of label themselves in different ways, it's not necessarily a huge difference. A lot of people will Google those keywords, and then quite often it will every single time, 100%, because there are so many more personal stylists now come up, usually within your region, depending on where you're Googling from. It usually will come up with the closest people. So then you can learn more about personal styling and what personal stylists actually do. So I guess, a lot of people, do their research. A lot of people are, like I said, influenced on social media as well. Sometimes that's some good things. Sometimes it's not such a good thing. Some people might go, and Instagram's probably, a typical place to get visual inspiration. Pinterest is, great for visual inspiration, but I think for sort of more real-time stuff, a lot of people go to Instagram for inspiration, and then of course if you put in those keywords again, then you're going to come up with lots of people that are sharing their business stuff, their outfits, whatever. So I think it's easier to discover more about personal stylists, easier to discover personal stylists in general, through the channels that we've got available to us now. I think what we've just got to be very careful of is not being too heavily influenced by what other people are wearing, and thinking that, we always have been, you know, like in magazines before social media existed. We have physical magazines that we would flick through, see celebrities, think we should be that thin, we should be wearing these mini skirts, you know, whatever it was. And it's the same, but it's just it's so overwhelming now. In some ways it's great to have that library at fingertips. In other ways it can just be really overwhelming. But I think the key thing is to you know, we've got to go on a self-discovery journey before we can be influenced by anything. If you have kind of done that work on yourself to really understand what makes you feel good, from the texture of the clothes to the fit of the clothes to the color of the clothes, everything, then you can be influenced, because you'll be influenced in the right way. You'll be looking at the right people that bring you joy, that influence you to purchase something that you know is going to be something that you love. I'm very much an advocate for investing in the right items of your wardrobe. And when I say investing, I don't mean that you have to buy high-level designer items, because I've come across some designer items that have been so expensive and such poor quality. So a lot of the time, you know, we are looking at good quality items from, you know, designer prices and things, but occasionally, you know, even the higher end high streets, some of those higher end high street brands, some of them offer a premium for really poor quality. So, you know, I'm all about looking for good quality that doesn't come at a stupidly high price, and looking at pieces that you keep, that you love, and that can stay in your wardrobe for a long time. And they're going to be, the only reason they're going to leave your wardrobe maybe because they're threadbare or something, or you've changed or you've moved on from that item or something. So, you know, it's really about having items with longevity. And the likelihood is we've probably got a lot of that in our wardrobe already. We just don't know it because we see these things every single day. We get bored of these items, or we don't know quite how to put them together. The amount of times that somebody said to me, I would never put those two together. Oh my God, that's amazing. That music. I mean, every personal stylist has heard those words. We can see things that you can't see, and that's our job. You know, I employ people to do different jobs in my business because I don't want to, can't be bothered, don't like it, you know, whatever. But you know, this is what I do for other people, to help them see themselves differently, to kind of help them see the clothes in a way that they've never seen them before.
Exactly. And like you say, that's really interesting that you can actually, like, somebody that is maybe looking in their wardrobe thinking they've got nothing to wear, chances are they probably do. It's just they're not using the right combination of items. So what would you say to somebody that is at a point where they're like, I need to do something about my clothes? Maybe they don't know about a personal stylist. What could be something that anybody could do with their wardrobe? Like, would you recommend literally taking everything out, putting it back in, like one piece at a time, putting it into outfits? Like, what would you recommend for somebody?
Well, one of a few things, depending on what floats your boat, I think, because the idea of decluttering, taking things out of your wardrobe for some people is hell, you know, like, no, switch off. I'm not listening to this anymore. Thanks very much. So that might work for some people. I find that very therapeutic personally. I've always done my whole life, even as a kid. I would take things out, I would kind of put piles of things together, roll my socks back up, you know, fold things back in nice and neatly. They'd stay like that for about a day. My sister would attest to this. You know, she's the most tidiest person. I was always the messiest person, which is why mine needed to be done quite often. We'd share a room. She hates it. And so so the idea of decluttering is can be therapeutic for some people and not for others. That's always a really good way for you to discover things that you haven't worn in ages, or that still have tags on, or that you forgot that you had, or you used to really love it and then you decided you hated it and now you love it again. You know, so it's a good way of kind of discovering things, depending on, you know, everybody's different. Some people are really organized with their wardrobes anyway. Some people have minimal wardrobes, some people have cluttered wardrobes, some people have loads and loads of items but not enough storage space as well. You know, that's another thing. And when I'm with my client, I look at this in a practical way as well, you know, in terms of like what wardrobe or storage space, rather, it's not always a wardrobe. What storage space does this person have? What clothes do we have? And sometimes we're rearranging the furniture, sometimes we're rearranging clothes to work in different ways, sometimes we have to design new wardrobes together.
Yeah.
You know, I have that part of it as well, you know, and to accommodate, you know, what they want and maximize the space that they've got. Not everybody really knows, you know, how to maximize the space that they've got, or how to display their clothes, or how to keep
Yeah.
their clothes, store their clothes, maintain their clothes. You know, all of those kind of practical things are involved as well. But I think one of the first things that I would suggest doing is a bit more of a self-reflection thing. So actually, it's really simple stuff that you can do. Pinterest is a really great source of, like I said, visual inspiration. And this is where I probably would go over to Pinterest as opposed to Instagram, where we get a bit more comparisonitis than we do on somewhere like Pinterest. What I would do is, and we have a Pinterest board at the Image Cons Co. Shameless self plug just here. On there, actually, we've got some style personality boards. So one of the first things that I do, like I said, is getting to know my client and really understanding what works for them. Now, you can do this yourself, because, and the reason that I would recommend an exercise like this is to really understand if you are making that personal connection between really what you want, who you want to be, how you want to present yourself, and you can look at your wardrobe to see if the two are connecting. So I would kind of try to identify what really inspires you. So this is where I could maybe just kind of suggest having a flick through Pinterest. You can do it in a few other ways as well. You can talk to friends, you can look through magazines, you can Google, you know, all sorts of different things. But I would just kind of look at some pictures to start with. Look at what influences you. What things do you like? What things are you attracted to? That could be anything from the way that an item sits on the body. It could be the look of it, the texture of it, the color of it, the style, you know, all of these kind of different things, the patterns, prints, and everything else. Anything that really kind of attracts you to a look, I would put that into your own style board, and I would kind of keep that to one side. These are the things I always start here with my clients where possible, whether we're doing a color session or whether we're doing a full wardrobe session, a complete VIP experience. So whatever it is, I always start by asking them to visually show me, because, you know, one of the things as well is somebody might say to me, I really like powder blue. Now I've got a powder blue in my head. They've got a different powder blue. Theirs looks more like sky and mine looks more like the powder paint that we had in school.
Yeah.
Heritage kind of color or whatever. And so, you know, our blues are very different. So if they can visually show me, or, you know, I like knee-high boots and jeans or whatever, well, show me that look. Show me what inspires you. Show me the things that you are quite influenced by, because that in itself will help you. Well, it certainly helps me as a kind of starting point to really sort of understand what direction we're going in, and maybe tailor and tweak some things to make it work for themselves, you know, their own body shape, their colorings, etc., etc. But when we're doing it ourselves, just kind of like have a board of your style, things that you are influenced by. I would also, not everybody will be on board with this, but I would also recommend, and this is something you can add to your Pinterest board as well, taking photos of your outfit, preferably in a mirror. You don't have to smile, because this is not going to be a public board. You can make your Pinterest boards private. Nobody else has to see them, only you. And take pictures of your outfits. You can do that for 7 days, 14 days. You can do that for a whole month. And just look, do some self-reflecting, because we forget what we wore 3 days ago, 5 days ago, you know, yesterday. So if you just kind of keep a little library, you'll then understand how much you are actually wearing from your wardrobe. You can do a little hanger trick as well. Go into your wardrobe, turn all of your hangers around and hook them around the other way. Anytime you wear something, when you take the hanger out, switch it around the other way, put it back in, and then you'll see, like by the end of the week, how many are facing the other way. So you'll know how many items you're wearing. But yeah, coming back to the Pinterest board. So taking photos of your outfits, and then just kind of, oh, I'm wearing that same thing again and again and again. Well, why is that? Ask yourself, why am I doing that? Is it because it's a safety zone? Is it because I love wearing it? Do I need more of that type of look? Or or am I just too scared to wear anything else? Okay, I need to have a look in the wardrobe and see what else I should be wearing, and putting together. And then it will be easy for you to recognize what the gaps are in your wardrobe. But coming back to the Pinterest board, you can add those outfits to the Pinterest board and do a comparison between the what am I wearing? What am I doing now currently? Where is it that, what am I looking at that's influencing me, and why are these two different? Like, you know, and use the power of the pictures to inspire you, then to maybe just try something new. It could just be one item, one small item, like a belt, you know, that maybe you've got a picture of a dress that's belted, and you wouldn't usually belt your dresses. You never thought about doing that before, but you try it and it works, and wow, you've just been influenced from your own style, the things, the look of, and you're bringing them into your own wardrobe. So there's lots of things that we can do ourselves. There's I totally understand it's not always that easy for everybody to kind of like get the vision, put the belt in the right place, or you know whether to roll their trousers or their cuffs, or nip things in, button things up, tuck things in. It's difficult to know. You know, there's lots of styling tips out there, you know, that sort of show sort of half tucks, but it might not, it might feel awkward because it's not quite right for you or your shape, or it might be that you're not quite doing it the right way, or it might be just that you need to get into a habit of doing it. Like I've always my whole life tucked my tops into my trousers. My whole life I've always done it because I intuitively knew that that was the right thing for my shape. I've got a narrower waistline. I've got bigger and bigger and bigger hips as I've gotten older after children as well. And so, you know, I have to emphasize my waistline in a lot of the things that I'm wearing. And I knew that as a kid because I was always, you know, just a little bit curvy. And so, you know, when I untuck, so it's almost like the reverse, you know, a lot of people untuck and they don't know how to tuck. But for me, you know, if I untuck, it feels really awkward. But in, you know, in some things that actually works. So, you know, it's the trying and testing with different things. But one thing I think you can start with really easily is color. Like shifting to, and when I say color, when I say I do ask this question to my clients. When I say color to you, what does that mean? Like, are you thinking of bright rainbows? Are you thinking of soft, subtle colors? Are you thinking of like heritage colors from Farrow and Ball paint, you know, like when you go to B&Q or whatever? Like, what does that actually mean to you? And that gets a response. You know, we're just having a conversation. Oh, I don't like the idea of color. Why? What is it about color? Because when we're working with color with individuals, sometimes it might just be one key color that they need to fly. Sometimes they need a palette, but it's got to be a really subtle movement from neutrals, for example. So yeah, lots of people, not quite so much now, but you know, a lot of people a few years ago were wearing like black without needing to wear black. If you listen to things on social media about color, then you'll hear lots of people say, not everybody can wear black. You wear what's comfortable for you. You wear what you feel confident in. But as soon as you recognize that a change needs to happen, you don't feel good, you don't feel yourself, you want to move away, let's say something like black, there is an alternative. And that alternative doesn't have to be bright pink, bright red, bright yellow, whatever. There are alternatives. But again, looking back at the scale, are we moving from a 1 to a 2 from black, let's say, or are we ready to go from like a 2 to an 8? Like, that's the kind of gauge. But it doesn't have to be scary. But I think color can be a good place to start. Recognizing, again, open your wardrobe. What colors have you got in there? Do you feel good about that? What needs to change? Can there just be one subtle change that you can make from that? Because everything is all about taking things a step at a time. I can never go into somebody's wardrobe expecting to just wipe the slate clean and start afresh. Like, because we don't do that in our heads, so we wouldn't do that in our wardrobes. You know, you can't just wipe your memory from one day to the next and be a completely new person.
Exactly.
You know, all these things take time, and that's why we've got to work with the mindset where it is now and work slowly, step by step, to where we want to be, or in some cases accelerate, depending.
Is it a good idea? So I know, particularly like when you've had a child, or like any time in your life, if your body shape has changed, maybe you've gained weight, maybe you've lost weight, Is it a good idea to keep hold of clothes that you think, oh, I might fit into that? Or is it better to just get rid of it? Because I know I've had jeans in my wardrobe. I actually had a big clear out recently, but I had jeans in there that were pre-pregnancy jeans. They're never going to fit. My hips just will not fit into
Mm,
them ever.
mm,
And yet I was keeping a hold of them as like, oh, I might one day fit into those and feel good. And then it's that, oh
yeah.
God, am I just going to keep feeling rubbish because I'm never going to fit into those jeans again?
We've got to think about why we're holding on to those items. Like we might be holding on to those items for sentimental reasons. We might be holding those items because we, like you said, might fit into them one day. I wouldn't say yes or no whether that was a good idea because it really depends on the individual on why
Yeah,
they're keeping those items. It also depends on the journey that they're on at the moment. So whether it's a weight loss, weight gain, whichever way, we're kind of going on the scale. It how quickly does that person expect to make that change? I guess, what I also see is people who've changed career, let's say come from something corporate to something more creative. And they just don't know how to make that transition because they spent 25 years, in kind of corporate
yeah,
tailoring smart outfits. And even in the corporate world, we're moving a lot more into smart casual. So many people come to me and say, I do not know how to do smart casual. Like, what is that? I know how to do one and I know how to do the other, but what I dress like outside of work, I would not go into work like that. So
yeah,
I only know how to do one thing, so lots of people don't know how to sort of make that transition as well. So yeah, keeping hold of stuff, I think is really dependent on how quickly you are going to get the results that you want to make, to make those kind of changes. And so is it, I would ask myself, if that was me, is this realistic? Is this a realistic goal? Is this realistic for me to keep these in here? Why am I keeping them in here? Is it really because I think I'm going to fit into them? Is it because there are more sentimental reasons that I'm keeping them? So when we go through wardrobe declutters, a lot of the time there are items that person just isn't ready to let go of yet.
yeah,
So I wouldn't necessarily suggest, well, they're not going to work for you. Like, that's not going to happen. Let's get rid of them, because that person emotionally has to be ready to let go.
yeah,
I was exactly the same after my first child. It took me like probably over 12 months to get into any of my pre-pregnant clothes. But we evolve and our mindsets change, the way we approach things change. So we've got to remember the likelihood is that when we do come back to those clothes, and in my case, it was more than a year, and when I did come back to those clothes, I kind of grew out of them. I wasn't
yeah,
that person. I didn't really like them. The rise was all of a sudden too low on my jeans or something. So actually, I'd rather invest in something that I love for me now. We've got to remember that our clothes work in cycles. We're not going to keep, we're like said, there are things that we'll keep for a long time, and there are things that will last a long time, but not everything will be that way. Not everything in your wardrobe will be that way, and that it works in cycles. But also, if we wore the same things, if we were exactly the same shape, exactly the same size, wore exactly the same colors as we did 25 years ago, we probably wouldn't like those clothes. If we
yeah,
had exactly the same wardrobe and didn't have anything else because we hadn't changed, we would probably feel a bit tired of those clothes by now if they'd lasted. And if we had bought good quality clothes, because they were probably better made in those days anyway, then they probably would have lasted. But the likelihood is that our mindsets evolve, our lives change, what we're exposed to, what we feel, what we connect with is different to even 5 years ago.
yeah,
So the chances are you won't be wearing that. You won't want to wear those things again. Not always, there's definitely lots of thing, like maybe like a denim jacket. You might like have an 80s denim jacket or something like that. Like that might be something that you pull out again and go, yeah, I actually do really like this. I mean, the denim was probably, again, maybe a better quality, probably stiffer than a lot of the stretch that's put into
yeah,
denim now, depending on where you buy it from, whether it's kind of ethical or whatever. But, there might be some of those like key, whether we call them vintage kind of pieces, that you've got, that you kept, that you still really love, and there's nothing wrong with that. But quite often there will be pieces that we evolve away from, and that we decide, I'm not that person anymore. I don't want those items anymore. Or like you said, they just don't fit me in the right way anymore. I mean, if there's something you've got in your wardrobe, however, that you really love and it's not quite right, I would always go through the process as well of thinking, is there any way that I can alter this? Can I get this changed in any way, by a seamstress? Can I cut sleeves off? Can I make it shorter? Can I make it longer? Can I make it fit? Can I make it wider? Before it goes anywhere else. If I actually, there's something that I love about it, but it just doesn't fit,
Yeah.
can I change it? I mean, the amount of jeans that I cut into shorts as well.
It has to be
Like
done,
many,
doesn't it?
yeah. So, they think about whether you really love the item, or can somebody else, will that look better on someone else? Do you think you've got a friend or a family member or something that you could give that item to and they'll cherish it just as much as
Yeah.
you've cherished it? So,
Oh, amazing. Just to wrap up, one final question. What would you recommend to somebody that is ready? They think, right, I'm going to get a personal stylist. Like, how do they go about finding the right person for them? Would it be jumping on a call, or yeah, how can you find someone that is the perfect fit for you?
yeah, I think, again, I suppose everybody's different in the way that they connect with people, but I think that, yeah, absolutely have a conversation. I offer for a discovery, where they call it discovery call, complimentary call. I want to have it. I love talking to people. So, and I give loads of like free stuff away in my conversation, to help that person. And I will never try to heavy influence anyone into working with me without knowing that I'm going to be the right person for them as well.
Yeah.
I want to be the right person for them, as well as them thinking that I'm the right person too. So sometimes I might make other recommendations, or I might say that they're not ready, or I might just give them something that they can walk away with right now, that they can kind of go and implement themselves. But I do think it's a great idea to have a conversation. It really depends on how you're influenced to purchase, because you might be influenced to purchase by flicking through the most stylish people on Instagram, for example, and go, oh yeah, there we go, I want to look like her. I'd probably have a conversation with that person to start with,
Yeah.
but have a chat with people, do a bit of research, do some homework, find who you connect with, have a conversation with them, and then see what the vibe is, between you. See what you get from that person. Explain how you feel about whatever the problem is at the moment with the clothes, with the wardrobe, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and see where you go from there.
Perfect. And a huge congratulations as well to wrap up on your award win. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, thank you. This is the second award we've actually won of this kind recently, which is great. The best personal stylist training company in the UK.
Woo!
So I still am an independent personal stylist. I started as an independent personal stylist, and then I started mentoring other stylists, building a community of stylists, very much about community, a people person, connecting with other people. And then I started training in 2017. So I'm really proud of our achievements, in the last few years. But I still feel like I did a video on our Instagram yesterday, that we've got a long way to go. But I feel like the industry, I kind of talk about we as being the collective industry of personal style. I still feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of people that don't really understand that we are part of that personal development industry rather than the fashion industry, and that, yeah, there's so many people that will benefit from personal stylists. So upward trajectory for personal styling. I'm really proud to be part of that. So yeah, thank you. That was just a great recognition, for the hard work that
Oh,
really,
so
and
good.
people I work with.
Amazing. How can anybody get in touch with you? I'll obviously put all of your details below, but yeah, if there's any way, like what would be the first step of working with you?
So come and have a little chat with me. Like, you can put a call into my diary. You get access to my diary, my calendar, and you can just put a call in. So, book a discovery call. I'm at the Image Cons Co. On all social media channels. You will also find me at Personal Stylists on Instagram. If you want my personal, if you want to see what I'm wearing, lots of my clients say to me, like, I feel like I've got such a basic wardrobe. So it really is beyond me why people are actually inspired inspired by some of the ideas I put together. And so I do it for the fans. So on my personal stylist account, that's where you'll see me putting my clothes together, a bit more personal stuff. But the Image Cons coat is where you'll learn more about what I do in my business, how I help people. The imageconsultingcompany.co.uk has lots of information on there as well. But yeah, get a call into my diary and love to have a chat. You know, just like to chat generally.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much, Emmeline. And I will be back for another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand very soon. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to unlock the secrets of building your own personal brand, head over to my website, baileyandrue.com, where you can grab my free Brand Brilliance Blueprint today. It's your roadmap to success in the world of branding. And hey, let's stay connected beyond the podcast. Follow me on Instagram at baileyandrue for daily inspiration, behind the scenes insights, and exclusive content to fuel your brand journey. See you there.